So I got some books today. Just wanted to show off some. One is a new book released, I think it was yesterday. So it just came in, right? It's called Rediscovering the American Covenant, Roadmap to Restore America by Mark Burrell. So it looks like the back, looks like that. So in Rediscovering the American Covenant is a quote from William J. Federer. It says, in Rediscovering the American Covenant, Mark explains the biblical principles behind the American founding directly from the Bible that informed our national covenant, the Declaration of Independence. Common questions Christians have regarding faith and politics are addressed, and he makes a strong case for active Christian citizenship with a focus on recommitting to our national covenant. This is information all Americans would benefit from as we wrestle between our founding principles and the far left progressive alternative being pushed, end quote. And the other quote says, quote, wow, when you have been reading history and theology and government as long as I have over the years, it can be difficult to be satisfied by new books that come along. I admit to being a snob in this regard and not easily pleased, but then Mark Burrell's book appears, and I am really delighted by its content. I see similarities to some of my own writings and teachings on American history and government, but I think this book puts it all together better. So the blending of scripture and history is thorough yet very readable. Great for history students, yet great for church groups, and this is also, I will recommend it to the groups of leaders across America, especially pastors, that God might reawaken his church for such a time as this. This is by Mark Burrell. And so, like, as far as American Covenant, like, yeah, I mean, I usually, like, I guess gets confused with the Mormon beliefs or something, but it's like they think of more of the Declaration and Constitution, but I mean, I see that as grounded in the, what I call it, the New Covenant Ethos, right? And so for me, the American Covenant is like understanding the reality and paradigm that America is also conceived in, right? Which is that New Covenant nation, that New Covenant identity, right? That is there very early on before the Republic's founding and stuff. It's rooted in the Pilgrims and the Bible and the Hebrew form of Republican government, right? Like a synthesis between the Anglo-Saxon culture, common law, right? And I think some other stuff like the biblical principles. So I wouldn't say it's a strict biblical nation, right, or something like that, like a theocracy, like but that's what I'm saying. It's like, I don't know, it's interesting. I like these kind of books because they keep you grounded in that reality of New Covenant, which I believe is essential for the civic order and the social order of America. I said this more than just because when you try to say it's like a Christian nation, it gets kind of ambiguous because there's so many Christians, right? There's a lot of Christian religions, and so that's why I stress New Covenant. Like I call it New Covenant America or something, because I know there's only one New Covenant. That's Jesus, basically. I always, like, from the books I've read, right? Like, he's more of the spiritual father than Calvin, or he's more of the spiritual father, right? Jesus. He's more of the spiritual father of this country, and how he's venerated by virtually all of the Republican founders. And but some of the books that I've read on like the separation, right, of church and state, it's like some of the founders weren't really unanimous, or like they didn't have a consensus on where to put the wall, right? Because they understood that religion is like the life of the republic and not secularism. And so that's why I said that the wall of separation, it stands on this, paradigm, or on this kind of foundation, which is the New Covenant religion, technically, of Jesus. And so it says, and I'm just going to read the flaps. This is Rediscovering the American Covenant provides fresh light on biblical principles for civil government and a citizenship and duty to all Christians, duty all Christians have in the communities in which they live. These principles are extracted empirically from the Bible, showing how they informed the actions of the founders in 1776 thus establishing our national covenant and Declaration of Independence. This simple yet critical blueprint they followed is described, the same blueprint needed today to restore America's founding principles. The book concludes with a call to action for Christians and the Church to rediscover the American covenant and fulfill the citizenship duty we have as Christians and honor the sacrifices so many made before us. All the opposing arguments aimed to undermine the American covenant are addressed, some in fresh ways. Given the breadth of the material, full 2-page illustrations are used to get the tone for each chapter. Additional illustrations draw the reader in and help connect concepts to the act of citizenship duty that Christians have. Because to me, American faith is a Christian faith, technically. As I Washington tell you, it's the one God, Jehovah, who's been so conspicuous in establishing these United States, right? And so that's why I said that the New Covenant idea is central to the life of the Republic, the civic order, and stuff like that. Like, let me see. So as I say, it says along the way, I addressed many questions surrounding the American founding and how to harmonize the Christian faith with historical events from the founding to today. This is like, was the founding biblically justified, or did it violate Romans 13? Was America founded as a Christian nation? Does focusing on politics hamper evangelism? Were the founders deists? Did the founders support the modern definition of separation of church and state? Why didn't the founders abolish slavery? Did the founders believe slaves were worth 3/5 of a person? Shouldn't Christians be concerned with God's heavenly kingdom versus politics? If Jesus did not talk about politics, why should Christians worry about politics? And so it's kind of going over those. He'll go over those things. And union. Has like illustrations like this. It's got Noah's Ark there. So I haven't read it yet because I just got it. So it looks interesting. Like, I'll just move on to the other books. This one came in today. This is The Ideological Origins of American Federalism by Alison LaCroix. Looks like that. Has a nice cover. It's just talking about the idea of federalism. Like, federalism is regarded as one of the signal American contributions to modern politics. Its origins are typically traced to the drafting of the Constitution, but the story began decades before the delegates met in Philadelphia. In this groundbreaking book, Alison LaCroix traces the history of American federal thought from its colonial beginnings and scattered providential responses to British assertions of authority to its emergence in the late 18th century as a normative theory of multi-layered government. So the core of this federal ideology was a belief that multiple independent levels of government could legitimately exist within a single polity, and as such, an arrangement was not a defect but a virtue. This belief became a foundational principle and aspiration of the American political enterprise. LaCroix thus challenges the traditional account of Republican ideology as a single dominant framework for 18th century American political thought. Understanding the emerging federal ideology returns constitutional thought to the central place that it occupied for the founders. Just federalism was not a necessary adaptation to make an already designed system work. It was the system. Connecting the colonial, revolutionary, founding, and early national periods in one story reveals the fundamental reconfigurations of legal and political power that accomplished the formation of the United States. The emergence of the American federalism should be understood as a critical ideological development of the period, and this book is essential reading for everyone interested in the American story. So I thought that looked interesting as well, so I got that one. This one is kind of expensive. It's just basically founding documents of America. This is documents decoded by John R. Vile. It just kind of gives you like commentary on the documents. Like here, it's like this. This is the natural rights of mankind, a bill for establishing religious freedom. Introduced June 18, 1779. It's adopted in 1786. It gives you like an introduction part. It gives you the passage of it, and it gives you like a commentary over here. So this one was kind of expensive though. Then I have some other ones. Like this one is there is no crime for those who have Christ. Who have Christ. Religious violence in the Christian Roman Empire. This is by Michael Gaddis. Looks like this. Got Constantine on the front, and it says, quote, "There is no crime for those who have Christ," end quote. Claimed a 5th century zealot, neatly expressing the belief of religious extremists that righteous zeal for God trumps worldly law. This book provides an in-depth and penetrating look at religious violence and the attitudes that drove it in the Christian Roman Empire of the 4th and 5th centuries, a unique period shaped by the marriage of Christian ideology and Roman imperial power. Drawing together materials from a vast array of sources, Gaddis asks what religious conflict meant to those involved, both perpetrators and victims, and how violence was experienced, represented, and justified or contested. His innovative analysis reveals how various groups employed the language of religious violence to construct their own identities, to undermine the legitimacy of their rivals, and to advance themselves in the competitive and high-stakes process of Christianizing the Roman Empire. Let me see, this is, let's see the contents. Like the first chapter is like, this is what has the emperor to do with the church. It's about persecution and martyrdom from Diocletian to Constantine. And the other chapter is the God of the martyrs refuses you. It's about religious violence, political discourse, and Christian identity in the century after Constantine. The next one is An Eye for an Eye. It's about religious violence in Donetsk, Africa. Temperata Servitas, I think it says. This is about Augustine state and disciplinary violence. So there is no crime for those who have Christ. It's about holy man and holy violence in the late 4th and early 5th centuries. That's what that chapter is about. The next one is The Monks Commit Many Crimes. It's about holy violence contested. And then Sanctify Thy Hand by the Blow. It's about problematizing episcopal power. And the last chapter is Non Eudicium Sed Latrocinium, if I said that correctly. It's about of the Holy Synods and Robber Councils. So it just goes over like a bunch of that problems and conflicts and stuff. And so I thought it was, an interesting book, so I went ahead and just picked that up. And then this one is Rome and the Invention of the Papacy, the Liber Pontificalis, Rosamond, by Rosamond Mekiderick. Looks like that. Let me see, this is the remarkable and permanently influential papal history known as the Liber Pontificalis shaped perceptions and the memory of Rome, the popes, and the many layered past of both city and papacy within Western Europe. Rosamond Mekiderick offers a new analysis of this extraordinary combination of historical reconstruction, deliberate selection, and political use of fiction to illuminate the history of the early popes and their relationship with Rome. She examines the content, context, and transmission of the text, and the complex relationship between the reality, representation, and reception of authority that it reflects. The Liber Pontificalis represented Rome as a holy city of Christian saints and martyrs, that the Bishop of Rome established their visible power in buildings, and it articulated the Pope's spiritual and ministerial the ministerial role accommodated within their Roman imperial inheritance, drawing on wide-ranging and interdisciplinary international research. This is Roman. The invention of the papacy offers pioneering insights into the evolution of this extraordinary source and its significance for the history of early medieval Europe. And then these other books, I think I showed you these ones. So I'm reading this one, The Idea of Natural Rights and American Compact by James Madison. This is a monograph on how he presupposes the American Compact. Like it says, this is an illuminating and richly thought-provoking new interpretation of Madison's entire career as a thinker and writer. Rosen's book will transform our understanding of not only of Madison, but of the significance and the application in our time of Madisonian constitutionalism. This is a path-breaking contribution to the study of the political theory underlying the American Constitution. Quote, that's by Thomas Pangol. The other one is like, says, Gary Rosen has given us the best study ever written of Madison's political thought, and therefore, since Madison has more to do with it than anyone else, of the principles embodied in the Constitution of the United States. This is an important book. It says that this is for students of the early American Republic. James Madison has long been something of a riddle. The members of the founding generation, whose actions and thought most stubbornly resist easy summary, the staunchest of Federalists in the 1780s, Madison would turn on his former allies shortly thereafter, renouncing their expansive nationalism as a threat to the Constitution and to popular government. In a study that combines penetrating textual analysis with deep historical awareness, Gary Rosen stakes out important new ground by showing the philosophical consistency in Madison's long and controversial public life. The key, he argues, is Madison's profound originality as a student of the social compact, the venerable liberal idea into which he introduced several novel and seemingly illiberal principles. Foremost among these were the need for founding to be the work of an elite few. For Madison, prior accounts of the social compact and their eagerness to establish the proper ends of government provided a hopelessly naive account of its origin. As he saw it, the Federal Convention of 1787 was an opportunity for those of outstanding prudence, understood in its fullest Aristotelian sense, to do for the people what they could not do for themselves. He said this troublesome reliance on the few was balanced, Rosen contends, by Madison's commitment to republicanism as an end in itself, a conclusion that he likewise drew from the social compact, accommodating the proud political claims that his philosophical predecessors had failed to recognize. So Rosen goes on to show how Madison's idiosyncratic understanding of the social compact illuminates his differences, not only with Hamilton, but with Jefferson as well. I said both Madison feared were too ready to resort to original principles and coming to terms with the Constitution, putting at risk the fragile achievement of the founding and their determination to invoke, respectively, the claims of the few and the many. This is, as American Compact persuasively concludes, Madison's ideas on the origin and aims of the Constitution are not just of historical interest. They carry crucial lessons for our own today and speak directly to current disputes over diversity, constitutional interpretation, the fate of federalism, and possibilities and limits of American citizenship. And, these other two, these other two I'm reading right now. It's Orthodox books. This one, I've had this for a while. I really like this one. This is a good book. The Art of Prayer, an Orthodox Anthology. So I'm studying this one. It's an anthology of all the writings of the saints. It's centered on prayers of the heart and stuff like that. And this one, writings from the Filiocalia on prayer of the heart. It's the short one, that's the one on the prayer of the heart. It says it's translated by Kalubowski and Palmer. It's just Filiocalia is an important collection of writings by fathers of the Eastern Church, dating from the 4th to the 14th century. It exists in three versions: the Greek, compiled in the 18th century; the Slavonic; the Russian text translated by Bishop Theophan de Reclus in the 19th century, and consisting of 5 volumes, with which his sixth is sometimes associated, is the most complete of all three versions and has been used in translating this section into English. So I'm on, what part was I on? I was on this part. St. Simon the New Theologian, Practical and Theological Precepts. So this is kind of what it looks like. So it's not, the texts are, they're not that small. It's easy to read. But yeah, I just wanted to show off the books that I got today. Hopefully it interests someone. And if you like my videos, please like and subscribe. And thank you and God bless.